So, I love being on this stage right now. Although I've never played this stage, I've admired so many that have played on this stage. And the cool thing is about that, though, is that the people I've seen most here at Mr. Small's have been my friends.
Yeah.
Or like people in the community that get to play this stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something to aspire to. And I hope that when I leave here, I find a community that can come together as this one has.
I hope you do too.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I can only hope for it. Yeah. What is it like having a space like this? And when did you decide that like local folks were gonna kind of be a big focus of what you do in this entire space of Mr. Smalls?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I'll say it's incredible that we've been able to build Mr. Smalls up to what it is, but the entire impetus of Mr. Smalls only ever was local. The whole beginning of it was local. The first iteration of Mr. Smalls was a recording studio a block away on Grant Avenue where we had recording sessions, and we kind of pioneered the concept of doing live recording shows where local bands or artists would sell tickets to the recording session and record a live album with an audience, and that would pay for their album, you know. So that's kind of how we started out. And when we that was on a 5-year lease, the roof caved in, it was a big mess. We were at the diner next door talking about what are we going to do, should we find a new place, should we rent, should we buy something. Oh, wouldn't it be amazing to have a church? And a guy gets up from the counter. He had been sitting there overhearing us, walks over. This guy is the mayor of Millvale's brother.
Okay.
he's like, you know, the borough's got a church. And so that very day, Mike and I and our partner, Peter Beckerman at the time, were walking through the St. Anne's Church compound with the Millvale mayor and the entire borough council with like our jaws on the ground. And you know, they believed in our vision and our goals for community and for creating a creative opportunity for our generation, enough to support us in acquiring this property. But I will say that it's the size of the property that dictated how big we made it. And so we never intended to be, you know, like an 800 capacity venue for national artists. We originally were going to put a recording studio in this room in the church sanctuary. But that was the year that every single Apple computer shipped out with GarageBand for free. effectively cutting the knees off of the entire recording industry. And we were like, okay, we're going to have to pivot. And so that's why we developed it into a live performance space. And that was sort of the beginning of why we embarked on being like a large scale venue like this. But it was always about local. It was, you know, even in the midst of that, we continued throwing local showcases where we would, you know, we used to set up a second stage and do kind of like, you know, multi-band local bills and just kind of, you know, welcome the community into the space.
Talk about like video killed the radio star, and you know what I mean? Like, like it just GarageBand destroyed our vision, and but then you, like you said, you pivoted to think about what this community would like need and want,
right? And
like, can you believe it is what it is now?
I can and I can't. You know, I never doubted the possibility of anything that's ever happened to me. I will say that I never specifically dreamed or like, it's hard to explain. It's like so much crazy stuff has happened to me and to my husband, and I think that it's because we just kind of go full speed ahead into any concept that we come up with, without doubt that it's possible. Right. You know.
Right. It's kind of like, we're going to try this.
Just try it.
And we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think to be like a community organizer in some way and run a business in a community, like you have to take a lot of risks. You have to figure it out, but you also have to like take the pulse of your community at all times.
Exactly,
you know?
and be willing to shift,
Right.
When it got to the point where this place was national acts like too often to really serve the local community, and we started to actually see that it was actually a disservice to put a local band on this stage when 100 people showing up would feel like a failure in a big room.
Yeah.
And that was when we decided to open up our second room upstairs, the Fun House, at a 200 capacity room.
Oh, yeah.
You throw a party up there, you have 100 people down here, it feels like a failure, but 100 people up there is a big party.
Yeah. Yes.
And so that room was also about kind of, given what this had become, finding a new way to serve the local Pittsburgh music community.
And the Fun House is like where it's at.
It is.
I mean, this room is great.
It is.
And we love to play here and in this space. People have their weddings here. I've been to weddings. I've worked weddings here as well. So I know a lot of the secrets of this space. But the Fun House, it just like, I don't know how to describe like when you walk through those Fun House doors, and then it's like you have space to move. Like you're not just coming in and like people are standing right there. Like it like opens up for you to walk in. That's how I feel anyway. And then you see people you don't know. You see a lot of people you do know, but it doesn't really matter because you're going to get to know those people by the end of the night, because you're going to be in the bathroom together. You're going to be next to, having a drink next to them. So the Fun House was the obvious choice for my final show here in Pittsburgh. And I know we were trying to, make this main stage work, but there's something about the fact that it didn't work that was just, it was good to me. Like I wanted to be at the Fun House and just have everybody experience what the Fun House has been for me and so many other people in this community. I just, the people who have played on that stage, I think sometimes, in local music, we don't realize that it's like always at our fingertips. Anyone can go to a local show. You don't have to be a musician to go to a local show and enjoy what your community has to offer. When people are like showing their Spotify lists, I'm like, do you want to see the CDs I have of local artists that I've been listening to all year? CDs.
Stack of CDs that I paid $10 or $20 cash to each person that made the CD.
Exactly. And if I'm going to listen to it on a streaming platform, I also pay for it. So someone told me, this was a couple years ago, before COVID, when we were still, mingling and out, this older woman who was a musician and an artist here for a long time. Don't remember her name, but she said to me one day, she was like, if you don't charge for your music, you are cheapening every other artist out there that you are in this community with. And that changed the game for me. I don't do this for the money, but my band deserves that money. And I guess I do too, right? Like I write these songs and I do these things, but it's a $10 ticket, $15 ticket, $20 ticket to see the people in your town doing the coolest stuff.
Absolutely.
And what do you think we like, how do we make it bigger? What do we do?
I think that's an important thing. I think that like helping people realize that what you're doing by coming to a show, showing up in person at a local artist show, is you're helping to sustain their growth process. You're helping to sustain their trajectory into becoming bigger. Like every single rock star that plays the stage started local somewhere. And they are on the stage because their local community showed up to their shows, bought their t-shirts, bought their CDs. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. And so, if people out there in interweb land, you want to feel like Pittsburgh is a great music town, like we can sit here and tell you the names of all of the amazing people that live here that play music. But if you want to feel like Pittsburgh is a really amazing music town, you have to like show up and like be there for them, because it's like a show isn't a show without an audience.
No, it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
You mean you've played in front of 5 people too? Yeah.
The last show that we did together.
We did together.
It was an amazing bill. It was me, you,
Lindsay,
Dragan, and Mirabelle Skipworth. And
Yeah.
I think we had 9 people through the door. And it was an amazing show.
It was incredible.
Was incredible. But I was personally kind of devastated.
Yeah.
I really was. I was like, what do I have to do to, like, I'm a triple platinum artist. Like, people know my name. It's not like, you know, I could hire a publicist to have anyone know my name any better.
Yeah.
Why would people not show up? And, you know,
Yeah.
it's very, it's a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I can sit here and be like, I'm Liz Berlin. We're playing. Right. I'm playing with Liz Berlin. And I just, that is awesome. Like, and people, like, who may not know you or know Lindsay, know Mirabelle, right? Like, they just don't feel connected. But why do they feel more, why do we as a society feel more connected to musicians we don't know than when we can come and meet the real person who's been through so much of that and who, as a woman, has pioneered so many things in this city and shown so much love for this city. Like, you know, give it right back. And I was devastated that night too. Because I knew that I put it out to everybody I knew. I knew I did all the things that I would normally do for a show that I'd get 30 people at. But it was just one of those nights. It was one of those things. However, I won't forget that show.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, anybody that missed it, just, you'll never know.
You'll never know the magic. So I walked away feeling great. Not great about the crowd size, but just great because we still sang. Yeah. And we killed it. We did. And we it was camaraderie. It felt so good and
so healing.
So healing. Yeah. And you just, you know, we as musicians, like, we're going through stuff when we're on stage too. Like, we're pouring out this thing that just is, I don't know, so raw, I guess, and so emotional and so very real, and we're dealing with it up on stage. Yeah. Some of us, you know, and where are you gonna pay $10 to $20 to see that, you know?
Exactly.
People freaking out up on stage.
No, I know. It's like, well, you could pay $15 to go to the movies and see, like, an emotional film that's, like, fake. That's
right, like
generated for your entertainment, or you could come to a show and see, like, some really real stuff. Like, like, these songs are my life. Yes. This show is my healing process. Yes. This creativity is like everything I dream and want to create for the world. This is like a movie made for you live on the spot.
Yes.
You know?
That's such a good way of putting that. This is something that's being made for you right on the spot as it's happening. We cry, we get mad, like, there's so much emotion up there for so many different reasons, it feels like a lot. It is this live movie, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, that's also one of the reasons I picked Smalls to be this space for the last show that I do in Pittsburgh, because, well, before I move, I will say, I will be back.
Good.
We talked about Jess Fest, right?
Jess Fest, okay, I love it. Jess Fest.
Cool, I'll be back.
Planting the seeds.
Yeah, that's and this is how it works, friends.
It is.
You just, you plant little seeds, right? And I love that. And so, this show that we're playing, April 22nd here at Mr. Smalls, it's a $20 ticket. And I want to tell you right now what you're going to get for that $20 ticket, and it's a lot of what Liz and I have been talking about. You get a community for $20. You get to see Liz Berlin for $20 and Lindsay Dragan and Jess Klein for $20, and you get so many other local musicians on the stage with us that we have handpicked to be there with us. And, you know, everyone from the staff at Mr. Smalls to, you know, the people on stage are all part of the community that night and, you know, beyond from that, right? And so Liz Berlin and her friends, and she's got a lot of them, who are very talented, who do a lot of cool stuff, are going to be playing with you that night. and Lindsay Dragan and her band, Jess Klein and the Good Time, and we got some other things as well. But one of the things that I also, lastly kind of want to talk about is not just the importance of like the music community and supporting local music, but the importance of local music supporting what's happening outside
Yes.
of being a musician. And I forgot, one of my friends posted it on Facebook the other day, but it was basically just about like being able to like separate the artist from like who they are as a person, and we tend to do that when something crappy happens, and it's like, well, they're not that bad. I love their music. They have this great beat, but they're kind of an a-hole, right?
Right.
And so I feel like here with what we bring together in the community we bring together, like, I just feel like we have some really solid humans in this community. And I know that in that space on April 22nd, you're gonna feel safe. And you're gonna feel needed and wanted and appreciated, and the love is going to be in that room. But on top of that, we are also coming together to support an incredible organization that I know that you have collaborated with your nonprofit, and I have collaborated with. So I moved here 10 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
10
years.
10 years this May. 10 years. And when I came here, I didn't have one of those jobs things that you need to like live life.
Yeah.
And so I saw a billboard. I don't remember where, but I saw this billboard for Women's Center and Shelter doing domestic violence work. And I was like, that's where I need to work, because I've done domestic violence work and sexual violence work for a long, long time. And I called someone up, and Nicole answered the phone. Or I got hooked up with Nicole Molinaro, who is now the CEO of Women's Center and Shelter.
Wow.
And she started off, when I talked to her, as like the service director. And she said, we don't have any jobs, but we have this volunteer training. You should go through it. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I've run these things before. I don't know if I can learn anything. Like, I was kind of being a little sour about it. But I was like, I went through it though. And it was one of the greatest trainings I've ever been through. I learned so many new things about the way in which we work with domestic violence in our communities. And I just like felt like I belonged to this place, right? Like they just did such good work, and I believed in everything they did. But in that volunteer training, I met one person who took me to my very first open mic at Eclipse. It was in Lawrenceville.
Okay.
And Henry Bokorski was the host, and he will be hosting our show on April 22nd.
Oh, cool.
So I'm very excited to have Henry hosting that night, because he is the host that I met, and he gave me a platform on that very tiny stage, and I never stopped going back, and I never stopped building this community. And so, and now as a professional working with domestic violence, I work very closely with Women's Center and Shelter. Like, I've gone through these iterations of how I engage with them and where I'm at, and it always seems to come back to Women's Center and Shelter in like a super positive way. And I just feel like we're gonna be raising money for them, and I feel like they all deserve it. But this, in my heart, this is where this money should go. So back to the $20 ticket. It also gets you a donation for Women's Center and Shelter. And we're going to raise as much money as we can for them in their efforts to prevent domestic violence in our communities, and also work with the survivors in our communities. And so being able to come together at Smalls and celebrate Women's Center and Shelter, celebrate open mics, and people you've met in the last 10 years. There was also a guy who sold me my house 10 years ago, and he's gonna sell my house for me now. And he's a local musician.
Full circle.
Exactly. I'm trying to make everything come full circle in this, leaving town. But I'm really glad we got to have this conversation.
Me too.
Because, like you said earlier, we can have this all day long, but we need you. We need the community to come together and be a part of what we're doing and believe in what we're doing, because we believe very very hard in what we're doing all the time. And I just don't think I'm gonna, I'm excited for my next chapter, but Pittsburgh has been a home to me.
Yeah.
And
Well, which brings me to the other thing that you get for your $20 is the ability to support Jess and to send them off into this next chapter of their life, which means so much to them, and that's
that.
priceless.
I feel like we forget that we need to support each other too, that these
Yeah.
are hard things, and
true.
I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd really appreciate it if you came and saw us and hung out with us for that night. So, if you want to get tickets, you can go to JessKleinandTheGoodTime.com, and that'll route you to Mr. Small's website, where you can find the tickets right on their website, or you just go to MrSmalls.com and type in Jess Klein and the Good Time, or find April 22nd, and you can buy tickets right from there. Appreciate this conversation, Liz.
Yeah, thank you. This has been wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for the show.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so good.
Cheers.
Cheers.